Ragdoll Kung Fu Fists of Plastic, released back on April 9th, 2009, exclusively on the PlayStation Network, published by Sony themselves and developed by Tarsier Studios. If you were gaming on the PS3 back then you've likely played this. That's because just 1 month after release, it was given away for free on the PlayStation Store for 1 week as a result of a partnership between Sony and Sprint. This actually makes it the very first PSN game ever sponsored to be free, and that's not its first either. See, Fists of Plastic is actually the second Ragdoll Kung Fu game released. The first game takes the crown for being the very first non-Valve game ever to be released on Steam, back on October 12th, 2005. The Steam game and the PSN release are very, very different games that play extremely differently from one another. We're going to be taking a look at both of them today, so let's get into it then. This is Ragdoll Kung Fu. The first game was developed by QI Creations back in 2005, which is the first company founded by Mark Healy. Mark Healy began his game development journey back on the Commodore 64, eventually landing him a job at Codemasters when he was just 19, and it's here where he met Peter Molyneux. If this were a video on Peter Molyneux, we would be here all day, but what matters is that Mark was with him for the entire beginning of Peter's career. Mark left Codemasters to join Bullfrog Productions, where they released both Magic Carpet as well as Dungeon Keeper. When Peter left Bullfrog to form Lionhead Games, Mark Healy joined him, where he worked as the first team member and the senior artist for Black and White, and later moved on to Fable. His credits will only continue to get better as this video goes on. Development on Ragdoll Kung Fu began after Black and White's release, but before Fable. It was a bit of a passion project for Mark, with him taking the lead on everything from programming to design to all the graphical illustrations. He also starred in the game's 20+ minutes of live-action FMV cutscenes, all without any funding from any corporate overlords. As you've seen in the footage on screen, the game has a gimmick where the entire thing is played with the mouse. There's no way to walk left or right. You've got to click and drag their limbs to move around, or just drag them by the hand. Nintendo actually saw this prior to release and wanted it to launch exclusively on the Nintendo DS, but Mark refused the exclusivity deal as he had already practically fully completed the game on PC. Other major companies continued to reach out to him, including Sony and Microsoft. He even managed to get the game up and running on the original Xbox, which is a testament to just how good this code was. The game simply isn't playable with a controller though. It doesn't work. It would require a whole rewrite. Mark ignored the money from the major publishers and decided to release his project exclusively on the PC, the way he always envisioned it. So let's take a look at the controls of the first game. As we said, everything is controlled by the mouse. Each limb is controlled independently from one another. You click and drag the left mouse button over the top of your character's limbs to walk around or jump around, like a ragdoll. The left mouse button is also how you block attacks. You'll need to literally grab your hand and hold it between yourself and the enemy to avoid getting hit. Very cool. As far as actually performing attacks, you do that with the right mouse button. You hold the right mouse on any limb of your choosing, drag the cursor as far away as you'd like, which will affect how much power and chi gets put into the attack, and then just release to hit. The chi meter directly affects both your movements and your attacks, and in order to recharge it, you just need to spin the mouse cursor in small circles. Charging it obviously leaves you open for an attack. There's magic mushrooms that you can pick up as well. Picking these up gives you superpowers and allows you to pull the ragdoll string up as high as you'd like. It basically gives you the ability to fly. We're going to talk more about the story for this game, its development, its local and online multiplayer in my usual fashion later on, but for now, we're going to be moving on to Fists of Plastic. Fists of Plastic is the game most people know and love. Well, people that have taste. Worth mentioning that Mark didn't have a ton to do with the development of this one, but it does include a ton of other Media Molecule developers like Bjorn Sunnison and Matthias Nygren. Thumbs up for that. At first glance, it looks a lot like a Super Smash Bros. Clone, but it has so many differentiating points that it feels a bit unfair to call it that. The controls and gameplay modes are the star of the show here. Control-wise, your first time playing is a bit daunting, but once it clicks, it really clicks. You jump with X, punch with square, kick with triangle, and block with circle, but this game makes extensive use of the 6-axis motion controls, but it does so extremely well. The combos have very different effects on your enemies as well. Triangle square will knock your opponent backwards, triangle triangle square, ram knocks them backwards hard. Square triangle launches them up into the air. Square 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 is an uppercut attack that knocks them off their feet. There's more, but you get the gist of it. We've got more to talk about than combos. But before we get to that, we've got to touch on the chi meter. See, the chi meter is recharged by hitting enemies or completing objectives, depending on the game mode. Essentially, the better you're doing, the more chi you get, and the chi can be used for both healing as well as for attacks. Chi abilities all use the gyro, usually mixed with a button. For example, if you hold square and then shake the controller in the direction that you want to travel while aiming in that direction, you perform a firefly attack, where you fly across the screen like you're on an out-of-control jetpack. This works like magic, and you'll rarely have any issue making your character go where you want them to go. Very useful for quickly making your way across the map to get back up to a capture zone, or to quickly snap up to a base to defend the basket. We'll get to the game mode soon. There's this lightning ball too. You achieve this by violently shaking your controller up and down to charge up your lightning ball through multiple levels, which you can then throw at your opponent to do an insane amount of damage and knock them backwards. A level 5 lightning ball can't be blocked in any way if it hits your opponent. Speaking of blocking, if you're blocking and have enough chi, you can thrust the controller upward and then back downward to perform a slam attack, which will knock your opponents off their feet and send any items in the blast zone flying away. Very, very useful for getting people off the capture zones in King of the Hill. Your chi is located right up here by your health bar. Using any of these attacks costs chi. Getting hit costs health. If you want to convert your chi to health, you can do so by just meditating, and in order to do that, you need to completely flip your controller upside down, making all the buttons inaccessible, and then remain in place until your health gets filled up. Let's briefly go through the single-player game modes. These are a mixture of challenges that progressively get harder and harder the more that they go on. The first one is survival mode. It's essentially endless waves of enemies. You're ranked based off of how many enemies you hit, how many lightning balls you throw, and how many firefly attacks you perform. Enemies go down pretty easy, and there's not much more to say about this one. It's really just a tutorial on how to fight. The next game mode is Sharpshooter. It's a really fun target shooting game. You've got endless shurikens that you aim with the left stick and throw with the square. We'll talk about the items soon too. The left stick is obviously, well, maybe not that obviously, how you run, which makes this a bit challenging. The target can move around and change in size too. Next game mode, Capture the Fish. This is the best multiplayer mode. It's capture the flag, but with a fish. This is one of the most fast-paced game modes and one of the best for playing 2v2. Having one person guard the basket while the other plays the offensive to get the fish is just so fun. Nobody ever stays guarding the basket though. The whole thing just becomes chaos while everybody fights over this dumb fish. Some of the baskets are really hard to hit as well. You've really got to jump, time your shot, and then throw the fish to score on your opponent. Growing up, this was one of my favorite multiplayer games of all time, just for Capture the Fish. Next single-player game mode, though, Acrobatics. You basically just swing from this highlighted piece of floor and try to jump between as many as you can in a set time. I didn't mention it earlier, but you can swing from any of the hovering floors in the game by pushing and holding R1. And while you're spinning around on the thing, you can push triangle to do a swing kick, which makes you swing faster. Next game mode, King of the Hill. King of the Hill is definitely the second best game mode next to Capture the Fish. It's technically just King of the Hill, but the mechanics of the game make it the most fun version of King of the Hill ever. Flying through the air to get back up to the hill, holding it, using mixes of punches, throwing people away, and doing that shield smash thing to fling everybody away just feels so sick. There's also an added twist too. While you're capturing, you can taunt Little Big Planet style by holding L2 and R2 and moving your arms around. This gives you bonus points and a score multiplier, but you're locked in place and can't move while you're taunting, just like you're meditating. God, what a fun game mode. Next single player mode, Way of the Firefly. This is another target challenge, and yet again, it's super fun just because of the crazy good controls. Aiming with the left stick, holding square, and shaking the controller to rocket your guy forward always just feels so good. Hate motion controls all you want. These are the guys that made Tearaway and Little Big Planet. They know how to make it feel good and accurate. Next game mode, Cleaning Up. This is just another fight to the death, but this time, you can throw enemies off the ledge. They're so stupid. They just walk up to you, and you can grab them all and just throw them right off. Gets a little bit harder later, but honestly, you can just keep throwing them off. They're absolute morons. Last up, we got Kung Fu Juggling. This is the hardest challenge in the game. You need to throw a frog in the air and beat it up while it's airborne. Hitting the frog with the firefly attack doesn't actually get you any points, but you can use it to keep the frog airborne. That's it for the single player modes. It's reasonably fun and essentially just practice modes and tutorials to train you up for the 4 multiplayer modes. Doing well on them though, get you medals if you do want to spend time to get perfect scores on all of these, but you're really here for the multiplayer. These medals somewhat tie into character customization though. See, the game lets you have 5 custom characters, and it's actually really cool. It gives the multiplayer some personalization. You select from a head, shirts, hands, pants, shoes, accessories, and haircuts or hats. You unlock these through a mixture of microtransactions and a season pass system, which we'll get into shortly. Just kidding. This was back when games were good and complete the day that you bought them. All of the costumes and modes in this game are unlocked by completing the in-game challenges and getting medals in the single player. If you play this game a lot, you eventually unlock them all naturally, though some are quite difficult to obtain. See, there's bronze, silver, gold, and fists of plastic medals that you can achieve. If you obtain every single reward, you unlock Sackboy from Little Big Planet. But anyway, like we said, the real reason you're going to be playing this is the multiplayer. There's only 4 multiplayer modes, but all 4 are crazy fun and chaotic in their own way. Deathmatch is a lot like Smash Bros. It's just a fight to the death. You can throw people off some of the maps, Smash style, to get kills, but realistically, you're going to be getting kills by wearing your opponent's health down to 0. It's fun, but probably the worst of the multiplayer game modes. King the Hill plays the exact same as it does in single player. No need to dwell on this too much, but yet again, it's worth mentioning that it's one of the most fun multiplayer experiences you can have on the console. It can be quite boring if you've set your timer to be too long, but a 2-minute fight to get as many points as you can on the hill is hilarious when you're playing with friends. We've already mentioned this as well, but Capture the Fish is probably the best part of this entire game. I went to my buddy's place to record some footage for this video, and we really didn't even want to play anything else besides this. It's so addictive, competitive, fast-paced, and fun. But last up is Dodgeball. It's super fast-paced and basically just consists of rushing to the dodgeball and throwing it to the other players. It's a fun little gimmick mode, but there isn't exactly any skill involved in it. All of these modes, both in single player and multiplayer, include items that you can use throughout the match as well. These can't be turned off like in Smash. It's a big part of the game. None of them feel unfair, and likewise, none of them feel useless. Long-range projectiles like the shurikens do a bit of damage if you hit your target, but are so hard to actually get a hit, and so limited in ammo that it's actually just a quick, fun thing to use. Likewise with the handheld weapons such as the staff or the nunchucks. They do extra damage, but are only slightly more difficult to avoid than normal punches and kicks. The mixture of creative game modes, the 8 super detailed stages, the cool weapons, and the insane controls make Ragdoll Kung Fu Fists of Plastic truly one of the best multiplayer games on the PS3, and it's such a shame that such a small number of people really got to experience it. The one extreme negative about it is that, well, the multiplayer is only local. There's no online play in this game at all. If you have a couple friends that are into platformer fighting games, you really can't go wrong with Ragdoll Kung Fu. I suppose that's all there is to really say about Ragdoll Kung Fu. If you like the video and you want to see the other game, definitely subscribe or support it in some sort of way. You know what to do. If not, whatever. Thanks for watching all the way through anyway. I really do appreciate it. Alright. Love you guys. Peace.